Mag City. King Martell grabbed hold of the rope, anchoring their foreign friends fast to the ruined dock. The same rope he grasped long ago in his past, on a voyage for advice and knowledge across the ocean vast. Core progress in the Old World was well ahead of theirs. Bishop Conrad's command was prescient. Up till now they led the way. He was sent to befriend the Old World rulers as the head of Megnopolis, and to lend tech support with their powerful Jesuit order. He would mend relations and strengthen their pull while Renfrey's dynasty was weak from the Great Gate City battle, where in the course of the long week the Renfreys betrayed King Calvin, joining the Moeritans to seek greater wealth. Being forsaken, King Calvin let them continue to believe that he had taken the bait. He'd let them misconstrue he was ceding Gate City for Moeritan tribute. But eschew their riches he did. "I'll not whore my people to that hussy saint of death. They're knocking at our door, offering a taste of their taint. My club will meet them, bash their skull, for we'll not live with their constraint." So he met them riding a bull, atop the hill on West Briscoe Road, the western edge of his pull, where Ozarks end and life is slow. He told them no and go to hell, then powered down a crushing blow on Renfrey's head. The dark priests fell next, their arms flailing, reaching for heads no longer there. Oh, the smell of victory was near as they bore down on their foes. Calvin and brothers, Tommy and Ray, and many more besides battled back the others to the other side of the rock fence, to thus protect their druthers. They soon found they could not block the endless legions of the Dark Saint. Tirelessly they'd knock, knock, knock the skulls of those with the mark of Muerte. But the endless legions, marching on the Ozark fence, proved too much for the fearless king, dying to defend the peace. So the Renfreys made deep ingress eastward, conquering a large piece of the Ozarks extending to Gate City. Trying to release Gate City, King Calvin's son slew Renfrey XII, beginning a new war. But the Renfreys conquered and grew, unyielding in their want of more. Encroaching to the western edge of Mag City, far from the shore of the Great Lake, they reached the hedge, a thick fence of osage orange and honeysuckle. Beyond the hedge, east toward Mag City, the land was covered in towering trees and small towns tucked beneath their grand canopy. There stopped the disease of the Renfreys till the current reign of Martell, when to appease unfettered lust, King Renfrey went beyond the hedge with the support of the Moeritans. His descent into lunacy lent support to his efforts, destroying the whole stretches of land to gain the port of Mag City. There he would toll blown glass bells for his victory. Instead, he's trapped body and soul for all to know of his glory. All this at a touch of the rope. It's his legacy, his story. Now he would help his city cope, wounded, but only in the flesh. With Renfrey now gone, Martell's scope expanded. He could now enmesh Gate City back into the fold of his ancestors, and then thresh what remains of Renfrey's hold. But now he'd be off to the core, to let his foreign friends behold the progress he's made to restore the modern's power. Unaware, the architects relinquished the core to Gear, tossing it through the air, over water, into a crowd, where Gear stood and could only stare in disbelief as the ships plowed into each other as he caught the heart. And by this act became avowed to never let the Ark-heart part till he got to the 51, where the heart will be used to start the powers held within the sun. Martell was in for a surprise. Gear and John spin toward the sun. And that, my friend, is how the sun radiates light to fill Earth's skies. Next, I'll show how a corona erupts, filling stargazers' eyes with a strange light. The aurora occidentalis, the western lights, filling the Arizona skies at night. The Earth used to turn east to west, and magnetic poles were once north and south. Now we turn north to south. The magnetic poles are now way out west and far east. That's what happens when rogue black holes get near. We're just lucky that beast didn't send us out of orbit, or else us Earthlings would have ceased to exist. How about it, John? Call it a night? We're about to rotate sunward and be lit by its light. Good. I think that stout caught up to me. And don't forget your prayers. If you don't, Em will shout in my head all night and not let up. She lives on, John, echoing still. I know. I still feel upset about it. I think it's slowing, though. Now, when I think of Em, which is often, it's like she's growing in me. Her essence has a niche in me. Me too, man. Look, our star greets us. We're turning from the pitch of Earth's night to greet our near star. Spinning to face the star nearest Earth, Gear and John fall asleep far from home. Not on their mind, furthest from it is what types they will meet out there, because there's time to rest and not worry on who will greet, capture, or kill them. In the wild between there and here hides defeat or victory among self-styled outlaws, ferals, runners of vice, and other low sorts who've beguiled many walkers as they entice or snare them on the 66th trace with vice, booze, or games of dice. Here, Europeans came to mix with native tribes whose kingdom spread through forests so dark it plays tricks on the mind of those who dare tread beneath its tangled canopy. Shadows and sounds elicit dread and fear in those who cannot see. The sources of the horrific cries come from the understory. Scattered shadows with peering eyes, craggy rocks and mounds of unknown source, phantoms materialize in the mind. Every creak and groan of the trees hints at the danger lurking unseen. Treading alone, uninvited, complete stranger in unfamiliar land, the sole purpose to reveal the manger to fellow primate tribes whose soul has come to discover God in their own way. The pull of their soul to transcendent truths through pagan rites won through harsh tribulation. Cultural truths that underpin the way of life of a nation. Men descended from such as these heard the gospel proclamation in the bright early centuries A.D. when tribes barbaric ruled enchanted forests and seas, and Roman emperors still ruled with legions patrolling the known world where countless deities ruled man's every thought. A twilight zone, to be sure. Yet from the desert, whispers blew of a God unknown. A man like them who walked on dirt. A man who healed, a man who died. A man who loved, a man who hurt. A man who danced, a man who cried. A prophet then, a prophet now. True man, true God, betrayed, denied. Word of this poor, meek man spread. How he spoke, healed, restored, unlike anyone else. His only vow to the God he claimed he was like as one with. The countless Roman and pagan gods, their powers strike fear in man like a bad omen, intangible, ever present, a sacred tree or a Roman temple, the thing to which one bent their knee. Symbols and statues of Caesars and gods represent man's desire to attain the views of God's truth and powers higher than themselves. A force that imbues disaster, war, famine, fire, disease, rogue black holes, stop the clock, set us back, but we don't retire, like a rolling stone or a rock. A slab of stone carved, the unknown, God of the Greeks to whom minds flock, the causeless cause who, unbeknown to those who seek truth, is the end to where all inquiry is blown. To where all old beaten paths wend, out of the thick and tangled wood, of knowledge lost around the bend, of time where lost, scattered tribes stood their ground with brutal force, primate power. War, sex, and food are good. Family is a joy. The wait for harvest and hunt, a shared thought, these walking apes anticipate, even as predators and apes they fought off, kept at bay. Ferocious calls, taunting roars, fang-filled jaws. Distraught father shields his kin, his move stalls long enough. His mate and child run down the forest path as his calls gurgle and strain. Still his kin run where they don't know. Near on the prowl an enemy tribe waits. The sun hides. In the distance is a howl. Mother and child are nearly back without man. From a bush a growl stops them cold. Silence. Then whoosh, crack. Woman and child run back to camp as hidden enemy goes slack. Skull split by woman's sling. At camp she warns of enemy approach, with no thought to her lunar cramp. In silence enemies encroach. They enter tents and break down doors. No one there to enslave or poach. In the confusion cat roars. Primal, huge. The raiders disperse as the saber cat rips and gores, then feasts on these ape men. What curse does this village hold? Woman knows. Her mate let his spirit immerse into the cat. And so it goes, making sense, remembering lost love. Stories told as wisdom grows. Hunt, gather, birth, death. Getting lost in the myth wherein you move. Sink, swim, fight or flight. Getting tossed overboard. Trials that will prove life as a treacherous journey where temptations come to remove you from the gently rolling sea to unknown far-off lands, wind-blown, far from shore, wrenched down on a knee, face in hands, crying all alone. Adventure calls you can't refuse, but if you do your chance is blown, like yesterday's paper of news, made of trees that covered this land, the same forests where men would lose their lives, trying to understand Ganyanzioni, the lodge of 5 nations, by bringing to their land word of a man who was alive in ancient times across the sea, when the road of silk still did thrive, and for many a century would, under auspices of trade, teasing a curiosity of where foreign goods are made, cultures that intrigue and entice, or invoke fear with threat of raid, seasoning life with bizarre spice, from far-off lands, where a few venture seeking paper, silk, dyes, jade, rice, and encountering adventure. For fire for warmth, fire for food, to brew tea and stories too, as pressure builds, hoping that there are a few more wells with water they can drink. Enough that they can carry through to the next oasis and think of roads behind and paths ahead, as life passes by in a blink, quicker than a rocket ship led into space. As a monument it stands. In an instant, bright red flames explode, surging smoke, air rent with a deafening, shaking roar, beneath night's dark and starry tent. The flames seem to ceaselessly pour from the rocket. Blast off! It's gone! The sleek monument here no more. Lift off using smart, controlled brawn away from Earth's persistent tug, escaping her manicured lawn and her ever-familiar hug, off to where moons and planets float, sloshing in a giant's beer jug. Moons and planets with gate and moat, beyond them nothing sure is known, no traveler's tale nor braggart's gloat, no Chinese silks skillfully sewn, neither wonderment nor warning signs of animals decayed to bone. There are no dragons adorning maps, no cyclops, nor sirens' call, no more wonder in the morning, no mythic wonders to enthrall. There's only space, empty and vast, no legends or tales that are tall. Science and reason have surpassed the old ways to communicate, but something in our primal past won't let go. Our genes won't negate strategies that helped us survive, define our tribes, and find a mate in a context where we'd contrive stories that define how to live, die, and marry. when to arrive at adolescence, what to give for sacrifice and tax. Hero journeys we all take through life's sieve of fate and chance in time's swift flow, with space, still vast and empty. But hidden inside a rainbow lives endless colors you can't see, like the planets out there that float along trade routes once forcefully closed by powers wearing the coat of red and black, purple and gold. Domineering colors, remote and foreign, unlike gods of old. No, these powers are alien. The concept of love is black holed to them. We are the alien to them, humans to be enslaved. But spirit is not alien to us. We know that we are depraved, money, sex, death in the extreme. But countless eons man has braved, shaping her life, living his dream. These foreign powers, cold and dark, undid humankind at the seam, just as we began to embark beyond our star, beyond our sun. Alone we were not in the dark, far from earth, further from sun, pushing out until both appeared among the many stars as one of them. Like that, we disappeared from the scene of extrasolar economics. We disappeared in the twinkling of a solar second from the galactic scene. What happened then is still a blur, but what it was never seen. A ghost from beyond outer space, giants atop the stalk of being. All that's known is they did erase the progress of humanity. All of our colonies in space plunged into anonymity. Earth, Moon, and Mars, and satellite stations lost in obscurity. Settlements cut off from the light that kept them connected across distances enshrouded by night. Settlements that now turn and toss alone in dark, cold space. Once so close, now forever far. The loss final. Despair did only grow as each outpost realized it was stranded in the ebb and flow of the space vacuum, tightly knit with matter and energy. Lost, dark, and alone. No chance to sit again on Earth's warm, green grass. Lost on cold stations with synthetic sun, fusion power. Lunar frost growing over the glass dome, thick and white as the rings of Saturn spin on in the silence. Homesick for Earth, for beaches and sunburn. The weird quantum ecology of these outposts leave one to yearn for the native biology of Earth. These outposts imitate life through complex technology, never able to duplicate intricate connections hid deep in relations that fractalate and evolve, as on Earth, so deep in space from here. But now control is lost. Genes start flowing down steep cliffs into a KitchenAid bowl, mixing on high, function is lost. Biotic systems that control, life-supporting systems are tossed out of the space hatch, system-wide meltdown, as the logos embossed on all the equipment inside, maintaining water, atmosphere, waste, and food continue to bide their time as people run in fear, scrambling for any way to fix the equipment. They engineer ingenious works using the sticks and stones technology on hand. A few outposts find a good mix that keeps them online, but they stand alone now. No longer does light, which travels without grains of sand, ever falling out of the tight neck of the hourglass, propagate through dayless space, transmitting bite after bite to communicate with those stars that dance in the night, to Kepler's step and Newton's weight. Planets orbiting in the sight of Galileo's telescope. Messages once transformed to light, like an anchor now cut from its rope, no longer attached to its ship, cannot reach out or blindly grope for an extended hand to grip. Space posts on planet and moon, into oblivion did slip from each other. They could not tune into the frequencies once cast, like school vacationers in June, back in the modern's ancient past, across America's landscape. They packed their cars for a fast week or two, a needed escape from work and school at amusement parks or camping behind a drape of trees, campfires round the tent, cooking s'mores as raccoon and bear salivate in their discontent. Communication lost and nowhere to go, the moderns were stranded. Left alone, they grew unaware that long ago they were banded with planets, moons, and other space stations. Knowledge was not handed down any more because the race for survival was in full swing. But time did not fully erase memory. Some began to sing stories attempting to explain why they were left alone to swing in orbit like a single grain of sand floating in the ocean. It will pour when it's time to rain. Mythologies set in motion among those now isolated. Some held a paranoid notion of dark plots initiated by the League. Conspiracies grew. The others retaliated against them, they thought, though they knew not why. Now forever distant from where they once routinely flew, those places are a revenant now. Generations down the line, the ones out there grow irrelevant. They stop looking for any sign, a passing ship or flashing light, and inward they further resign. Most stop visiting the site of their ark, a vestige of old days and customs when they'd unite, hoping that again they'd behold their distant relatives. A twig away on H. sapiens' old family tree, amid the big forest of all life forms now found beyond Earth. Though they're but a twig, away they share not common ground. The longer they remain apart, the harder it is to rebound, for fondness grew not in the heart as the generations gave way to centuries. They had to start their lives again before decay took hold of them. Euclid. The ambient, artificial sunlight of day was always a transient joy for Euclid. The soft, red dirt here blew through his hair. Succulent plants, desert lizards on alert for birds of prey, peppered the faux desert landscape. Crazy ants squirt acid as their complex, below surface chambers are invaded by a large toad with a hollow belly. Pollinators aided cacti in bloom. Bacteria and mycorrhizae degraded rock into food desert flora consumed. The bright pseudo-sunlight fed the flora, which fed the fauna, which fed Euclid. He held his sight fixed, observing everything in his gaze. His mind was in a fight, struggling but determined to win. Inside his skull was turmoil, questions of how did life begin, and did men once depend on oil on a planet so far away? Did he have depth deeper than the soil? Was he like dust that blows away, or was his soul fixed like a star? To this desert he came to pray, to think and search. This spot was far enough away to separate himself from the day-to-day tar. Those demands of life irritate him. A hard worker, his keep earned, something always came to frustrate his desires. Inside he burned, thinking of opportunity missed. Envy bloomed as daylight turned to night with the simplicity of the stars and Jupiter's red storm. Here his animosity, at not having his desires fed, blew up like a desert sandstorm. He did not hide under his bed, taking his desires as a norm. He fought the thoughts that drove him mad, giving them color, name, and form. Constant battle was all he had. Could not imagine time for rest. This wore him down and made him sad. But he still would give it his best. He could not stop thoughts in his head. Dancing women shaking bare chest, moon nectar on their breath. Dim red lights, seductive music. Their eyes telling everything left unsaid. Throughout the starlit night he tries to resist these thoughts. Paranoid plots of family and friends. Lies they are, but he cannot avoid thinking them. So he comes out here, calm, quiet, and peaceful, devoid of intrusions and anxious fear. He meditates, regains his calm, questions and thoughts becoming clear, as worries now doused with napalm combusted, consumed like debris in a wildfire. The soothing balm of a quiet mind on the sea was his. He wills himself, effort great, to set sail on that sea, leaving behind his pain and hurt. So once again he could ponder life's mysteries. He was alert now. His mind began to wander down secret passageways, hidden from others. He would not squander the treasures he found deep within the Ark's library. A taboo location, not quite forbidden, de jure, though everyone knew for every purpose and intent. De facto, you did not step one shoe in there. But inside Euclid went, knowing the others must be wrong. Someone out there had to invent all this. Things here did not belong to this moon. His ancestors gave up on searching for answers long ago. Their descendants behaved like Narcissus in Mirror Land. To themselves they've become a slave, forgetting to extend a hand, forgetting that a hand might grip back. Determined to gain command of himself so as not to slip back into the fire he escaped, he struggled to learn, drip by drip, information that had been draped for centuries on Ganymede, his home, his moon. For years he scraped away local myths meant to lead to truth from his mind. They weren't whole. He wasn't willing to concede. He was a fighter with a goal. Army Ranger, Crusader Knight, Zulu Warrior, Seminole, Green Beret, Navy SEALs. Above the clouds, screaming eagles rain down hot death under cover of night. Semper Fi, hear the hurrah drown the enemy in death's cold fear. A warrior is not a noun, but a verb defending what's dear to them. Such as this Euclid felt, fighting to keep his vision clear. As in this odd desert he knelt. Others like him were out there. They must be, he knew. Derisions pelt him as the words his people say of such things intrude his thought bank. But he's learned to not let them play, and in seconds those voices sank. To get out here, how'd they arrive? On gravity tracks, with a tank of star juice and a fusion drive, he imagined from what he read. Euclid was able to derive the construction had to be wed, like the railroads of the Old West, with calloused hands that broke and bled, rock-hard muscle and solid chest. Foremen that cursed to keep the line. Those men worked, they gave it their best. They built the vision, made it fine. East met west at the Golden Spike. Chinese, Irish, Mormon too, blast and mine through granite mountains. Judas Hike helped lead the way for routes surveyed from Golden Coast to Golden Spike. Desert heat and Indian raid, blizzards and tunneling through snow. None of these obstacles waylaid the immigrant machine. The glow of Jupiter's dizzying bulk ameliorates the low thoughts plaguing Euclid. He could sulk no more. He was of the same race that built this now forgotten hulk, whose gravity tracks ran through space. He is a man, he has a will, he knows himself, he has a face, he has control, he is not ill, like the ancients of long ago. Commandments 10, Eightfold Path, still apply this very day. To grow is divine, above primal urge. Discipline, structure, not hollow feelings, allow humans to purge erratic thoughts so prevalent at his home. Sex and drugs, the scourge of his time. A malevolent sect of binaries seized control. All laws became irrelevant regarding one's own self-control. You are all that you imagine. His parents fell into this hole. Gatherings they held were a sin, their actions wrong, nothing was right. To his pleas they would not listen, so he left, vanishing from sight. His voice they'd never hear again. Survival out here was a fight. He was clever, he had a den for shelter. Food was plentiful. He could visit the Ark again and again for its bountiful library. Ancient and modern knowledge was a magnetic pull on his soul. With his coffee urn, he spent late nights delving through deep forgotten truths. Those of love, stern justice, jealous gods, hate, the leap of faith, noble truths, comedy and tragedy, of wolf and sheep. None held him in captivity as those describing the commerce and trade, science and industry of the race that came to disperse beyond their planet and their moon into the lonely universe. That is where Euclid would go soon. He would leave Ganymede tonight. He would leave his beloved moon, watch it fade away from sight, never again to hear return. He changed them not with love or fight, and cared not to receive their spurn. So he left to be with the Ark, a wall of knowledge, tall and stern, pitiless toward those who lived so desolate. Page after endless page stands stark and still, striking irresolute moon-nectar men with a grave gaze, laboring long to restitute order and rule, justice, law of days gone by. These books are more alive than Ganymede men in the haze of moon nectar. It gives him drive to not be likened unto them, to follow the Ark, let it drive him far away, to break the hem that stitched him tight into the seam of this crowded moon whose anthem is strange and fickle like a dream. At times it was a true nightmare, for here evil is made to gleam. But he's determined to repair himself, and before he departs, he'll give the evil men a scare, imprinting something in their hearts. Like that man Jesus, he will turn tables and overturn their carts. The monsters here, they do not burn for gold. No, they burn for the flesh. Tonight, brothels he'll overturn. He will not kill like Daesh, for he loves. He'll set captives free. Those enslaved, forced to please the flesh of horny, grinning men who see not soul, merely a pleasure toy. He'll execute his plan quickly, freeing those under forced employ, and give them a chance to escape. Introduce them to freedom's joy. In the shadows he'll then escape, and let the Ark take him away to planets hidden by the drape of home, home where he cannot stay.